Hello, my name's Karl Monahan. This is the Pelvic Pain Natters podcast. This is a Friday takeaway, small bite-sized chunks of information to help you navigate your pelvic pain more successfully. This is episode 51. I know pelvic pain only too well myself, having suffered from it in my mid-20s, having lost a testicle due to massive infection, and I have dedicated my life now to helping men recover and overcome symptoms of male pelvic pain conditions, including chronic pelvic pain syndrome and chronic prostatitis. All right. So thank you once again for joining us. And I'm now going to do a mini series on how the mind influences our pain and our symptoms. And I'm not saying this is in your head. I am absolutely not saying, nor would I ever say this condition is in your head. But for me, if we discount the mind, if we do not welcome it into the group and the conversation in discussing how to overcome pelvic pain, then we're missing out on so many options moving further forwards. All of my patients that overcome their condition, when they reflect with me, they say, I was able in me opening up and being aware of the influence of the mind, it made me realize just how much more there's going on than just stuff happening in my pelvic floor or pelvic floor dysfunction. A little note here, I did a mini series on pelvic floor dysfunction a while back. Do go and take a look. Do go and listen as to why it's really important to consider life beyond the pelvic floor as the only contributing factor. So this episode is about the brain as a Google search result. Um, Bear with me. This will make a bit more sense in a moment. So let's give you some examples of how the brain or the mind might work. When you walk into the bathroom, your mind will select for you a list of things to do that are associated with the bathroom that won't be associated with other rooms in your house. All right, so it might be something to do with brushing your teeth. It might be something to do with evacuating bowels or bladder. It might be something to do with washing yourself or cleaning the space that's in there, for example. Now, you wouldn't have those same list of options when you walk into the kitchen. You wouldn't walk into the kitchen and your mind wouldn't present you with where you can empty your bladder. You wouldn't walk into the kitchen and think about where to find the shampoo. That is, unless you keep the shampoo in your kitchen. Okay, so these are called affordances. When we walk into a space, our mind will present a list of affordances to us that are specific and related to the environment that we're in. Now, when you walk into the office, if you work in an office, again, you probably won't be looking for the shampoo because it's not expected to be found there, again, unless you keep your shampoo at work. Um, so this is the way that the mind works. This is very simplified, by the way, and one for my own benefit, but secondly, this is about a 10-minute podcast. All right. But like I said, I'm going to build on this particular series. So let's consider when we walk into a space, into a room, let's use the bathroom as an option. What our mind will give us is like a list of options like you might do if you did a Google search for anything. But we're going to really simplify it. So let's say the Google search response gives us 100 results. All right. And of those 100 results, the top five are probably more relevant to our current situation than the bottom 10. All right. So what will happen is that there's then our mind might prioritize or sort out those affordances based upon what our current needs are. If I walk into the bathroom and I haven't shaved for a few days, then the chances, and I feel that shaving would be helpful for me, then the chances are that shaving might appear a little bit higher up those results. Now, if I'm deciding to grow a beard, then actually shaving may not appear in those top five. It may appear well down that list. And so actually we may not be saliently aware that shaving my beard that is now down to my chest bone is of importance. So it will dismiss it. It's there as an option, but it's often dismissed because it's not really pertinent. It's not important. It's not of priority to us. So why is this important when it comes to pain and pelvic pain? So let's give some examples. I have pelvic pain. This is an example. I don't have pelvic pain, but I'm using a real life example as a patient. Um, I have pelvic pain and I have a journey to make, and I'm going to be going on holiday, and it requires me traveling on a plane. Now, our system, and when I say system, I mean our mind, our brain, and our body, that's one integrated system. They are together, as far as I'm concerned. I'm pretty sure that as you're listening to this, your brain is sitting in your head, and your head is attached to your body, and that your spinal cord runs from your head, your brain, into your body and then disperses a neural network to all areas of your body, all organs, all regions of your body. That is an integrated model. This isn't separate. Okay, you don't have your, for those who know the cartoon Futurama, you don't have your head in a formaldehyde jar separate to your body. For me, and my approach moving further forwards, you are one integrated model. So let's bear that in mind. And your system is trying to keep you alive. It's trying to protect you at all times. And it has a negative bias. It's always going to err on the side of caution. It's always going to seek out potential threat or potential danger, much more so because it has more relevance and more meaning for us. Your system is trying to keep you alive. It therefore is aware of potential danger and threats at all time. This is good. This is really helpful. But when we have pain and persisting pain, that system, that danger system, that threat system can be ramped right up to the maximum. So even the smallest, most innocuous thing that if we didn't have pain may seem pretty neutral, may now hold the potential to be damaging or threatening or cause more symptoms, or worst of all, cause a flare up. Little nod. I've just done a mini series on flare up. So go back. If this is the first time you listen to the podcast, go back and check out the short series I did on flare ups as well. I think you'll find that very helpful. So you're traveling and you're thinking about the day. And so you may not be traveling yet. All right, you may not be on the plane, but you're planning for it. And then because you're planning for something, your brain will come up with a list of affordances. It's a Google search result. Okay. Let's say there's a top 100 possible outcomes. The top and right at the very top are the most dangerous outcomes, and right at the very bottom of that 100 search results are the least dangerous. Guess which search results, guess which end of those search results our mind and our system is going to pay attention to the most? Yeah, you're right. The absolute worst possible outcomes. It doesn't consider because it doesn't feel it's relevant to think that the flight may go really well, that we may find comfort, we may sleep, we may enjoy the journey. There's almost no point in holding on to that because it doesn't hold valid safety messages for us because then we're safe. All right. So what our system will do is it will highlight the worst possible scenarios. You recognize this? Does this sound something that you're familiar with if you're a patient? Do you, when you plan something, all of a sudden you get, oh, that deep dread, that deep sinking feeling, maybe the tightening of your testicles, maybe an increase in sensitivity. Maybe your mind starts playing out the worst possible case scenarios. The next podcast I'm going to do is about mood states and about emotions, and I think you'll find that again very interesting. Um, so we're planning something a point backwards. If I'm planning on going into the bathroom, it's almost the same as being in the bathroom. If I'm planning on being there or I'm thinking I'm going to go to the bathroom, my mind creates a list of affordances for me. So whether we're doing an activity, walking into a bathroom, being on a plane, or we're thinking about it, I'm thinking about going to the bathroom, I'm thinking about being on a plane, it's the same kind of thing. We may not have real-time data available to us, but what happens is that our mind will fill in the blanks for us. And that's not always helpful either. So, can you see how this can be really, really unhelpful? Can you see how this might lead to more catastrophization, more worry, more concern, more fear, more doubt? Oh, I'm not really sure I should be going on that plane. I think, oh, imagine if that happens and then that happens and then that happens. Imagine how the holiday is going to be. Or I can almost feel it happening already. I can almost feel my pain coming along already. Your system is trying to protect you. It's doing its very, very, very best to try and protect you. Now, I might talk in a few episodes about really running with that and going into it, but there are some risks involved in really running through every possible case scenario and looking at every possible outcome. It does mean looking directly at your fears and looking directly at the symptoms and possible consequences and outcomes of that. That can feel a little bit overwhelming, but there is validity in that. So, you're planning on going on holiday. We have this list of 100 search results. I've simplified that are about all possible scenarios, from the worst, which will be right at the top of our list, and the ones that we then pay attention to because they're more salient to us, they hold more relevance to us. And then the ones at the very bottom of that, which are actually fine and everything works out absolutely fine. The scenarios we run are the worst outcomes. And then we can jump on them and find that we've spent hours, days, weeks even thinking about those thoughts, lost in that rabbit hole of doom and gloom and despair and doubt and fear and all of those things. Can you see how this might play into our symptoms? Let's run a little experiment here. Let's say that you're going on a holiday with someone who doesn't have pelvic pain. And let's say we ask them what they think the possible outcomes of that plane journey might be. I guarantee that, and in asking them, I'm only asking us to think about them, not take us into consideration. We're asking them to be really selfish. How do you feel that your holiday is going to pan out? How do you feel that the plane journey might pan out? And this is where we start to see that our bias towards protection and safety clouds our judgment. Because that person who's traveling with us who doesn't have pain won't be thinking of any of those possible scenarios. Oh, I can't, maybe I can't go to the bathroom because the light comes on and I'm not able to get up and pee when I want to. Therefore, I'm going to feel trapped. The person that you're traveling with who doesn't have pelvic pain, that's not running through their head. Imagine if the plane's delayed and I'm stuck on the tarmac and we can't move and I can't get off and I can't stretch and I feel like I need to be stuck in my seat and I can't tell anyone and I can't have a word with the flight attendant because that draws attention to me. The person who you're traveling with doesn't have those thoughts. So it demonstrates that our system in trying to protect us is actually a little bit unhelpful as well. Can we see that maybe there might be other outcomes? Can we open up the spectrum a little bit? Instead of focusing on those top five of doom and gloom and the worst possible case scenarios, can we maybe entertain that there might be other outcomes? It may not be as bad as we think it might be. Running that scenario might feel a little bit more liberating. I guarantee your mind will draw you back to the worst possible case scenarios. But if we can be open to, hey, this might not be that bad. It might be an actually really smooth flight. And here's something I had a conversation with a patient about yesterday. When we reflect on something in our past, it's never quite as bad as it was at the time, is it? Because when we're right there in the moment and fear has gripped us round the short and curlies and it's got us, oh, right where it wants us, it can feel like the world is closing in. When we reflect back on it, we realize actually that wasn't all bad. There were some other things, other times during that flight, during my journey that were all right. Maybe they were neutral. They probably weren't 100% perfect. And that's okay. Because if we're aiming for 100% perfection, we're going to fail all the time. Maybe that plane journey, as one example, we can include dating in here, we can include the day ahead, we can include work, we can include sitting, any situation. Maybe it won't be 100% perfect, but also maybe it won't be 100% bad. Maybe there might be a wedge of those search results in the middle that's probably going to be a little bit more realistic to what it looks like. Can we be open to that? Can we consider that the menu that we're being presented by our overprotective mind is not how the reality is going to play out for us? Can we bear that in mind? Can we hold that as a consideration? This has been episode 51 of the Pelvic Pain Natters podcast. My name's Karl Monahan. This is a Friday takeaway. I hope you found that beneficial. I hope that's been food for thought. Please do come back to me. I'd love to know what you think about this. I'd love to hear your comments. Please, you can email me at pelvicpainmatters@gmail.com. That's matters with an M, or you can comment on the platform that you are currently watching or listening to this podcast on. Episode 51. Thanks for joining. Thanks for listening, and catch you in episode 52.